Bruce Springsteen offers the best value for money of any rock performer that I've ever seen, or indeed have ever heard of.
Well, I had a friend, was a big baseball player back in high school.
He just has bags of energy and commitment. I think since his early days as sort of a barroom band entertainer, he just feels that you have to give everything you've got.
Saw me the other night at this roadside bar. I was walking in, he was walking out.
Springsteen's thing right from the very beginning has always very much been about connecting with the audience. He was sort of unashamedly enthralled to the past, to 60s, to 50s, to 60s, and Elvis and so on. Something that right from the start he did and that he continued to do right up until now.
4-hour shows, soul review style presentation. When he's got the E Street band with him, an absolutely crack set of instrumental backers and an unwavering commitment to connect with the crowd.
He's a relentless performer who just keeps on going and believes in telling stories, and the more he does, the more he wants to do. He warms to his mission, and those that are fans are nothing but grateful and lap it up.
Bruce Springsteen is undoubtedly one of the greatest live performers in rock and roll's history. Blending showmanship with sincerity, he's renowned for his boundless on-stage energy and commitment. He once said, "The idea was, I come out on the stage and do my best to bring out the best in you, which then brings out the best in me. But it's like riding on a big wave, and it's never predictable." Well, it certainly isn't. The rare and riveting footage here ranges from intimate ballads to roof-raising anthems, from a period mostly in the 90s when his status as the boss was already assured and his every move magnified.
Yeah, house got too crowded, clothes got too tight, and don't know just where I'm going tonight. Out where the sky's been cleared by good hard rain, there's somebody calling my secret of mine.
But Bruce had paid his live dues like few others. From day one, his marathon shows had bordered on the legendary. As a superstar, he succeeded in painting in broader, crowd-pleasing strokes while retaining the emotional honesty that had made him stand out in the first place. Bruce cut his teeth playing in New Jersey bar bands from 1970. The album Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey introduced his distinctive voice and way with words. But people really began to sit up and take notice around the time of the 1973 second album, The Wild, The Innocent and The E Street Shuffle. Sure, there were clear influences here, Van Morrison, Bob Dylan, soul music, but something about the stories and the unique way he and his musicians told them signaled that this was a special talent. It was 1975's Born to Run which opened the floodgates, an extraordinary, poetic and rousing mix of Phil Spector, West Side Story and the rebel flavour of James Dean and Marlon Brando. It was, said Bruce, the most intense experience I've ever had. Although some skeptics found it over the top, most listeners agreed wholeheartedly.
Street Band made their mark on the group, and you've got to single out someone like Max Weinberger, who's his drummer, who's fantastic. But I think the two characters that are most central to it were Stevie Van Zandt, Little Steven, and also saxophone player Clarence Clemens. These guys were a great visual foil for Springsteen on stage, especially Clemens. And I mean, Steve Van Zandt left before Springsteen kind of dissolved the band, all very amicably, and he replaced him with Nils Lofgren. And I think it's worth also giving him as a credit, because when Springsteen put the E Street Band back together again in the 90s, he had both Steve Van Zandt and Nils Lofgren playing guitar. So it was a little bit of like the idea of keeping the two of them. But I think you would certainly say from the original incarnation, Van Zandt and Clarence Clemens.
Nothing better than seeing Springsteen and Clarence Clemens on stage together, which is just a joy to see, and which is one of the greatest live concert sort of atmosphere building things that there is. You could not go to a Springsteen concert with the Easter Band and not be entertained in some way. Even visually as well as musically, it's just so vibrant. There's so much going on. Every kind of iconic rock, pop, soul motif is thrown in there into the melting pot, and it's one of the greatest live rock and roll shows I think there's ever been.
With a gigantic, era-defining hit record to his name, Bruce, his confidence blossoming, could do no wrong. Gigs with his loyal E Street Band would often last for 3 or 4 hours, Bruce giving every last drop of sweat to ensure his fans enjoyed an unforgettable show. And the interplay of the big personalities on stage, most notably Bruce and larger-than-life sax player Clarence Clemens, was a vital part of the atmosphere. Classic albums followed, among them Darkness on the Edge of Town, The River, Nebraska, and Born in the USA. Released June 1984, the bombastic Born in the USA topped charts worldwide and consolidated Springsteen as a global megastar. He was such a live phenomenon that in '86, even a 5-record collection of live cuts reached #1 stateside and #4 in the UK. In 1987, his 8th studio album, the more reflective of melancholy Tunnel of Love, was released, and it's in '87 that we first encounter Bruce here. We see him handling The Times They Are A-Changing at a Dylan tribute show at New York's Kennedy Center, while Bruce's own songs have carried the flame as much as any American artists.
Gather round, people, wherever you roam. Admit that the waters around you have grown. Accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone. For the times they are changing. Come critics and writers who prophesize with your pen. Keep your eyes wide open, the chance don't come again. Don't speak too soon, the wheel's still in spin. There's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win. For the times they are changing.
There's obviously a huge amount of Dylan influence in his music, and I think he was hindered by the tag for a long time. I mean, he wasn't the only new Dylan around at that time, and he's certainly not the last one to have been given that tag. But I think it did prove a huge hindrance.
He was just a sort of a great individual, a poet, if you like, a poet of rock, which Dylan had held the mantle of that. Springsteen, for a newer generation, was more exciting, more lively than Dylan.
If Elvis Presley, as it were, liberated the body in music, 1965 especially, with Like a Rolling Stone, Bob Dylan liberated the mind. He said, and by example, he showed that rock music can have words, good, interesting, repeatable words. And there is no doubt, you just have to listen to any Bruce Springsteen record, especially the early ones. They are very, very wordy.
How the line it is drawn and the curse it's cast. Slow on now, later be fast. As a prisoner, later be past. The odor's rapidly fading, and the first one now one day be last. For the times they are a-changing. Thanks, Bob.
If there's one American icon more important to the Springsteen ethic than Dylan, it has to be Frank Sinatra. Here we see an extraordinarily moving interpretation of Angel Eyes from the Only the Lonely album, Bruce's own favourite Sinatra record. He renders it dark and sinister, but not before paying tribute to Frank at the great man's 80th birthday gala in '95, which Bruce opened, cracking jokes about their shared New Jersey heritage in front of an appreciative crowd, ranging wildly from Johnny Depp to Angela Lansbury. Bruce then turns serious and hails what Sinatra's voice meant to a young Asbury Park boy. It was a voice, he says, filled with bad attitude, life, beauty and excitement, a nasty sense of freedom, sex, and a sad knowledge of the ways of the world. It was the sound of hard luck and men trying to figure a way out.
I try to think that love's not around, but still, it's uncomfortably near. Tonight my heart is losing ground, 'cause my angel eyes ain't here. Angel eyes, the devil sang, they glow unbearably bright. And need I say that my love is misspent with angel eyes tonight.
His music is very much autobiographical, and particularly in the early days, he was writing about people he knew, the streets he grew up on, and so on. And you know, that's what he set out to do, and that's what he managed to do. Sinatra obviously was from New Jersey as well, and was somebody who I think, particularly in the last 20 years, came to receive the kind of kudos and credibility among rock acts that he clearly deserved, but which perhaps he hadn't had before.
Frank Sinatra was of no influence on Bruce Springsteen whatsoever until Bruce Springsteen was in his late 30s and he hit his bad time, which was the short failed marriage with Julianne Phillips. Frank Sinatra recorded a bunch of ballad albums in the 50s and 60s, and it's the great 50s ones, I think, that Bruce was actually listening to, you know, when things were at their lowest in his life. And you can hear that undercurrent.
Now pardon me, man, 'cause I gotta run. You see the facts are uncommonly clear. I wanna know who's her new number one and why my angel eyes ain't here. Excuse me while I disappear.
A recent poll among musicians as to their favourite Springsteen song saw Streets of Philadelphia coming in second only to Born to Run. In many ways, it's not a typical Springsteen song. It's very understated and subtle, yet its emotional power is undeniable. Written for Jonathan Demme's film, Philadelphia, which featured an Oscar-winning turn from Tom Hanks as a man dying of AIDS, it addressed a previously taboo issue with compassion and grace, and it won Bruce a Best Song Oscar with the first song he'd ever penned for a movie.
Tell what I felt, I was unrecognizable to myself. Saw my reflection in the window and didn't know my own face. Oh brother, are you gonna leave me wasting away on the streets of Philadelphia?
Streets of Philadelphia kind of signposts the more mature Bruce Springsteen, if you like, and it brought him back in touch with an audience that wouldn't have known absolutely everything he'd done before, to a crowd of people who possibly the last time he came on their radar would have been born in the USA.
Till my legs felt like stone, I heard voices of friends vanished and gone. Night I could hear the blood in my veins, just as black and whispery as a rain on the streets of Philadelphia.
Streets of Philadelphia gave a new chapter to Springsteen's career, really gave it a new lease of life. He'd perhaps been a little bit boxed in by this point by sort of Born in the USA and other anthems, and Streets of Philadelphia introduced him to a whole new audience by revealing the sensitive side of his songwriting, the beauty and subtlety that, you know, fans knew that he could do on various tracks.
Ain't no angel gonna greet me, it's just you and I, my friend. And my clothes don't fit me no more. I walked 1,000 miles just to slip this skin.
It was his first attempt to write a song for a movie, and it's probably the best Oscar-winning song I can think of.
I'm lying awake, I can feel myself fading away. So receive me, brother, with your faithless kiss, or will we leave each other alone like this on the streets of Philadelphia? On the streets of Philadelphia. On the streets of Philadelphia.
Springsteen's 1996 solo album, The Ghost of Tom Joad, reaffirmed his ability as a great storyteller and humanist who drew deft, detailed pictures of America's underclass. His working class heroes are disillusioned and downtrodden, but their spirits fight hard against going under. He was inspired by Woody Guthrie and, of course, by John Steinbeck's novel, The Grapes of Wrath, from where the character Tom Joad was borrowed. He'd also loved John Ford's movie adaptation, which had starred Henry Fonda. The title song meant much to Bruce, as we can discern in these compelling, intimate solo performances which echo the Nebraska period. It's a long way from the exuberant dreams of escape which so coloured and energised Born to Run. The highway is alive tonight, he croons, but nobody's kidding nobody about where it goes. We also catch a version of the mournful Youngstown from the same album, faithfully performed on the David Letterman Show. Its anti-war subtext seems more relevant today than ever.
Men walking along railroad tracks, going someplace and there's no going back. Highway patrol choppers coming up over the ridge. Hot soup on a campfire under the bridge. Shelter line stretching round the corner. Welcome to the new world order. Families sleeping in their cars in the Southwest. No home, no job, no peace, no rest. Well, the highway is alive tonight, but nobody's kidding nobody about where it goes. I'm sitting down here in the campfire line, searching for the ghost of Tom Joad.
Ghost of Tom Joad was, like Nebraska before it, one of the albums where Bruce sort of returns to a very introspective feel, a very quiet feel, a very acoustic-based feel. So he returns to his themes of the working men struggling to make a living, returning Vietnam vets who are very disillusioned, who despite perhaps a country and a society and a government which turned its back on him, wanted to fight on.
But it's all part of consciousness raising. It's all about, as it were, tapping into and encapsulating the kind of the moral sense of your listeners, especially the rock generation of people who are quite capable of becoming very sensitized to moral issues and then acting on it. And also, Bruce Springsteen is a sincere artist. As I don't think for a second he thinks I oughtn't to do that because it might have upset a demographic.
It's always, of course, problematic when a multimillionaire pop star starts singing about the poverty of the common man. But what redeems this in this case is that rather than just paying lip service like so many pop and rock stars do, the songs actually prove in the detail that he has paid attention, he has looked into it, he does know about these things. And it just strikes a chord and speaks to people in less fortunate situations than the average multimillionaire rock star.
Wherever there's a cop beating a guy, wherever a hungry newborn baby cries, there's a fight against the blood and hatred in the air. Well, look for me, Mom, I'll be there. Wherever somebody's fighting for a place to stay, decent job or a helping hand, or if somebody's struggling to be free. Look in their eyes, Mom, you'll see me. Well, the highway is alive tonight, but nobody's kidding nobody about where it goes. I'm sitting down here in the campfire line with the ghost of old Tom Joad.
In terms of whether it's a sort of a country or a blues or a folk album, it's influenced by all these things. But Springsteen has always said he's very influenced by Woody Guthrie and people like that, and Pete Seeger, whose songs he's recently paid tribute to on We Shall Overcome. So certainly those were the people he'd been listening to and was influenced by. But I think he gives it his own intensity, and certainly anyone who caught him playing the Ghost of Tom Joad tour live, he went out solo around the world and played a solo tour. He would just fill a room. I mean, I saw him play this at the Albert Hall on his own for 2.5 hours. Now, you might think that one guy with an acoustic guitar could get a little bit repetitive or wearing after a couple of hours, but I, like everybody else, was blown away at the atmosphere and the emotion he created, and it was a tremendous live tour.
I think that Bruce Springsteen needs that sense of connection to millions of ordinary people who don't necessarily have a voice or political power through financial power, because that's where he comes from, and I think he's pretty determined not to lose that. You know, that when he upped sticks, left New Jersey to go and live in Los Angeles in the early 90s, it was a bit of a personal and an artistic disaster.
Here in Northeast Ohio, back in 1803, James and Danny Heaton found the ore that was lying in Yellow Creek. They built a blast furnace there along the shore, and they made the cannonballs that helped the Union win the war. Here in Youngstown, here in Youngstown, my sweet Jenny, I'm sinking down here down in Youngstown. Well, my daddy worked the furnaces, he kept them hotter in hell. I come home from Nam, work my way to Scarford, a job that suit the devil's will. Taconite, coke, and limestone fed my children, made my pay. Them smokestacks were reaching like the arms of God into a beautiful sky of soot and clay. Here in Youngstown, here in Youngstown, my sweet Jenny, I'm sinking down here down in Youngstown. Well, my daddy come on the Ohio works when he come home from World War II. Now that yard's just scrap and rubble, he says those big boys did what Hitler couldn't done. These mills, they built the tanks and bombs that won this country's wars. We gave our sons to Korea and Vietnam. Now we're wondering what they were dying for. Here in Youngstown, here in Youngstown, my sweet Jenny, I'm sinking down here down in Youngstown. From the Monongahela Valley to the Mesabi Iron Range, to the coal mines of Appalachia, the story's always the same. 700 tons of metal a day, and sir, you tell me the world's changed. Once I made you rich enough to forget my name. In Youngstown, in Youngstown, my sweet Jenny, I'm sinking down here, darling, in Youngstown. Now when I die, I don't want no part of heaven. I would not do heaven's work well. Pray the devil comes and takes me to stand in the fiery furnaces of hell.
Well, no collection of great Springsteen performances would be complete without a blast of the man with his soul brothers and homeboys, the E Street Band, one of the most incendiary live units ever to light a bonfire under rock and roll. From a 95 Letterman show, we catch something really special here. It's the first time the band, who grew up in Asbury Park and rose together, have performed in quite a while. Bruce had cut loose in '89, and many skeptics reckoned he wasn't the same force without them. So it's a joy to witness their collective exuberance at being reunited here.
Bruce Springsteen, folks.
With Steve Van Zandt and Neil Slofgren on twin guitars, big man Clarence Clements on saxophone, and Mrs. Springsteen, Patti Scialfa on guitar and backing vocals, Bruce is understandably enjoying himself.
Bobby's got a gun and it keeps beneath his pillow. Out on the street, the old chances are zero. Take a look around you. It ain't too complicated. You're messing with love. Incorporated. Do you check over your shoulder everywhere that you go? Walking down the street, there's eyes in every shadow. Take a look around you. That equipment you got so outdated. You can't compete with love. Incorporated. It's murder. Incorporated.
Springsteen, as a solo artist doing albums like Nebraska, and obviously later on things like The Ghost of Tom Joad, was absolutely fine. I think the most important thing is that for a lot of fans, and for critics as well, the news that he was getting back with the E Street Band was possibly the best news that they could have had.
He phoned him up again and said, remember what we said 6 years ago that we were breaking up? Well, changed my mind. They all got back together again, recorded songs like, Secret Garden, Murder Incorporated. They're pretty great. He did a few shows to promote it, and the record was a big hit. And then E Street Band went back into cold storage again for another 4 years.
I don't kill a girl, bad rain stepping through. Never out of danger, so confident you keeps. Don't play the slow nose. Everything I hear that you got a job found time. Nothing leaves your head cold. And everywhere you look, life ain't got no soul. But the apartment you live in feel like it's just a place to hide. Walking down the street, you ain't going out of hide. Cops and police, just another homicide. You tell the truth, it's just frustrated from living. Murder incorporated.
In this clip, you can see the interaction between the band is terrific. Not just Bruce and individuals, but all the individuals themselves, like Steve Van Zandt, Neil Slofgren, Clarence Clements. They're all they all know each other so well, and they can all play together and ebb and flow with the music together so well. And there's a terrific sense of humour among the band as well. They're forever winking and nodding to each other, and you can tell they're having fun.
When Bruce dumped him back in 1989, it was that bad time. First marriage breaking up, getting together with Patti Scialfa. They moved, they started having children. It was a whole different chapter in his life, and perhaps he knew that he wasn't going to be, as it were, doing big tours or anything like that in the early 1990s. So why have the band, as it were, on payroll, kicking around, getting bored and getting fed up?
Well, there you Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
The dynamics of having Patti in the band seem to be well accepted now, and it's, you know, the audiences and fans have warmed to her as a presence on stage. She's a talented singer and guitarist, and you could say that she's not necessary when you've already got Steve Van Zandt, Neil Slofgren, two of the best guitarists in America in the band, and you've already got 5 or 6 world-class vocalists in that band. You know, it's often been said as a kind of half joke that Bruce Springsteen's only the 5th best singer in his own band. So maybe there was some resistance from fans initially, a bit like, oh, he's brought the wife to the office, you know, this is a little bit off-putting. But I think by now she's been embraced, she's been accepted, and it's just another, you know, great thing in a box of tricks that is the E Street Band.
Place where you can, and you can't forget. She'll lead you down the path, with tenderness in the she'll let you come just fine, so you know she's really. Look at you and smile, and her eyes are asleep. She's got a secret code where everything you want, where everything you will.
From '97, this black and white footage of Bruce live at the Tokyo International Forum Hall shows again what a dazzling performer he is solo when he's at his best and most committed. Brimming with the confidence gained from playing the Tom Joad album solo around the world, he also radically reinvents older material to great effect. There are very few performers alive who can match Springsteen for this level of honesty, of emotional candor and intelligent deployment of passion.
We busted out of class, had to get away from those fools. We learned more from a 3-minute record than we ever learned in school. And out of here, the neighborhood drum a sound. I can feel my heart begin to pound. You say you're tired and you just want to close your eyes and follow your dream down. Well, we made a promise. No retreat, baby, no surrender.
A lot of those songs from that Born in the USA era had been kind of misunderstood. For example, the most obvious case being that Born in the USA had been embraced by the Republican Party as a kind of pro-USA anthem, whereas in fact it was a kind of an anti-Vietnam song, which they hadn't listened to the lyrics and had misunderstood. So No Surrender was embraced as a kind of, as the title suggests, an obvious, nothing's going to stop us now kind of song. But with Springsteen, you always get, if not explicitly, then implicitly, you get this suggestion of a little worrying undercurrent, a little sort of suggestion that all is not triumphant, all is not all powerful. America or the individual man is not all conquering, we are all vulnerable. And you get that with a lot of his songs, and that's what makes him different from the run-of-the-mill kind of gung-ho artist. So you get that example here.
Street tonight, the lights grow dim, the walls of my room are closing in. There's a war outside still raging, you say it ain't ours anymore to win. I want to sleep beneath peaceful skies in my lover's bed, with a wide open country in my eyes, and these dreams.
The acoustic renditions of some of his kind of, if you like, bigger rock numbers do work very well. I mean, something like No Surrender, which is obviously off of Born in the USA, which is this very big, fist-punching, flag-waving, American-sounding rock album. And I think to do a stripped-down version of that is a nice reminder that A, it's a very, very good song, and B, that it holds up on its own without all the other sort of bells and whistles, if you like.
Our other oddity in this segment sees Bruce lighting up during a guest spot with the Wallflowers at the '97 MTV VMA Awards. Chris Rock introduces the band, led by Bob Dylan's son Jacob, who run through One Headlight, a song of hope for better things, with the boss on shared vocals and guitar. Trying not to upstage the band, he can't resist a spot of trademark climactic mic sharing with the patently awestruck Dylan Jr.
Please welcome the Wallflowers with Bruce Springsteen. Come on.
Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan are friends now. They first met about 30 odd years ago, 1975. Bob Dylan was kind of wary because Bruce Springsteen was selling more records than him. They were on the same record company, Columbia. They'd been discovered by the same man, John Hammond. It was obviously a sense of this is the new kid on the block who's taking my thunder. But actually they have, over the years, they've become quite genuinely friendly. A lot of mutual respect. Each of them has got up and performed on stage with the other one. They also lived in Los Angeles around about the same time in the early 90s. It would be surprising in a way had their families not got to kind of get to know each other a little bit.
himself was obviously aware that when he'd come along, he'd been hyped as the new Dylan, like so many others before and after him. And it seems strange that he would kind of keep this motif going, because surely he'd shaken off that tag by now. Or maybe it's just that he was so confident in himself, and he was such an icon as Bruce Springsteen now, not the new Bob Dylan, he was the Bruce Springsteen, that it didn't matter that, you know, he could perform with Dylan Jr. and it wasn't a problem. So it probably didn't even occur to him, because, you know, nobody was calling him the new Dylan anymore, I guess. They were calling him the first Springsteen. Here, he tries very hard not to hog the limelight and lets young Dylan take it to start with, but by the end of the song, he's just getting so into it that he lets himself go, and you definitely know it's him by the end of it. And when he lets you know it's him, nobody else stands a chance really in a duet.
Come on, try a little. Nothing is forever. It's got to be something better than in the middle. Me and Cinderella, put it all together. We can drive it home with one headline. Many Bruce fans sorely miss the E Street Band, and watching this Saturday Night Live rock out, it's easy to see why. Although Bruce naturally gives his all through some of the better songs from the patchy Human Touch and Lucky Town albums, his hairy, almost heavy metal cohorts seem to be from another planet to his own style. The set is made worthwhile, however, by a vibrant version of 57 Channels and Nothing On, where Bruce's guitar soloing verges on avant-garde jazz. He sings the song's bitter social commentaries, all these channels, so little to say, with real vigour, wit and intent, a bluesman for a modern, overstimulated age. I bought a bourgeois house in the Hollywood Hills with a trunk load of $100,000 bills. Man came by to put my cable TV, settled in for the night, my baby and me. We switched it around and round till 1:30, but there was 57 channels and nothing on. 57 channels and nothing on. Well, now home entertainment was my baby's wish, so I hopped in the town for a Saturday night dish. Tied it to the top of my Japanese car, came home and I pointed out into the stars. A message come back from the great beyond. It's 57 channels and nothing on. 57 channels and nothing on.
They're good songs as ever, and 57 Channels is a great lyric, very funny. And as ever, he gives full value. You know, you can never accuse him of not giving his every last drop of sweat. But with these other guitarists kind of doing neo-heavy metal licks and tossing their long mains and rocking out, like it just feels a bit uncomfortable for a Bruce fan, I think.
The band that Bruce hired, known to Bruce fans as the Other Band, they were like a garage band. You know, you throw the chords at them, they'll play them quite loud, very energetically, and like puppies, just thrilled to be sharing a stage with Bruce Springsteen. And I think for a while, Bruce Springsteen got off on them. It was just different faces, different scenery, slightly younger guys, and he got off on their energy, but the music just wasn't as good.
7 channels and nothing on. 7 channels and nothing. Well, I can see by your eyes, man, you're just about gone. 7 channels and nothing on. There's 57 channels and nothing.
It seems odd that Bruce Springsteen should write a satirical song about there's nothing very good on telly these days, is there? But when he moved from New Jersey to Los Angeles, newly married, raising a family, is that what you do? You know, you watch TV. He'd become kind of disconnected from an awful lot of people he knew. You know, when you have a young family, you do spend much more time at home. Watching TV is one of those things you do, and I think it came as a bit of a shock to him.
He's tackling the whole issue of mass media. This is a guy who, remember, became a huge superstar off the back of MTV as well, a few years earlier. So you could argue he's kind of biting the hand that feeds. But in a way, it's him at a time when musically he wasn't necessarily his most inspired. He didn't have the E Street Band. He's working with another group and with session musicians. 57 Channels is probably one of the most interesting songs from that era of Springsteen. It's the one that made you think, well, hang on, he has still got something to say.
So what better finale than this adrenaline-packed climax to David Letterman's farewell show on NBC before moving off to a rival station in February 1993. There's a carnival feel as Letterman says, better late than never, and Bruce strides on to uninhibitedly rock out with the in-house musicians who clearly have the time of their lives mixing it with the man himself. Bruce matches his typical E Street Band energy, wrapping his leg around the mic stand, working that guitar, jumping up on the piano, conducting call and response vocals with the likes of keyboardist Paul Schaefer. It's classic Springsteen, the global superstar acting like a small-town teenager, jamming with his chums in Dad's garage for the first time. And it's with the simplest of great rock riffs, the Kingsmen's Louie Louie, that the number eventually wraps. When Bruce performs the song, it stays performed, and everybody's breathless.
Well, I had a friend, was a big baseball player back in high school. He could throw that speedball by you, make you look like a football. Saw him the other night at this roadside bar. I was walking in, he was walking out. We went back inside, sat down, had a few drinks. All they kept talking about was glory days. Yeah, passing by glory days. To the wing of the young girl's eye, glory days. Glory days.
Who the musicians are here, he just really sparks up an energy. He gets them all to kind of metaphorically loosen their tie and go for it. And you get these kind of house musos who normally would be sort of consummate sort of cocktail lounge, restrained guys, literally throwing off their hats and jumping up and down. And I think only Springsteen can sort of inspire that kind of fever madness in musicians.
You have to be a bit of a kind of a Springsteen nut to be able to, as it were, sing the verses. But who needs the verses when the chorus is that good? It will just have you punching the air and being transported back to your youth when it felt good to be alive. And that's one of the great things about Springsteen's show with the E Street Band, that at its best, they still recover that sense of being a teenager. And Glory Days, of any Bruce Springsteen songs, is about, you know, the teenager inside us all. When you get into your 50s, energy conservation is the key thing. You know, you have to, you know, yes, if you give your all on Monday night, it can't be so that you're absolutely washed out on the show on Tuesday night. You'll see the kind of the big rousing numbers, there'll be fewer of them, but used more strategically in the set, so you still get that same dramatic impact.
After the 80s, after the big stadium, the big rock tours, I think he realises that that's not necessarily going to be an option forever. And while people do still want to see him go out with the E Street Band, and he can still do those kind of big production numbers and do them very well, knowing that he can just sit in a room playing an acoustic guitar and still sell records and still sell tickets, it gives him an escape route, if you like. And I think that's the way you'll see him go. You could imagine him at 70 years of age, sitting in a club, doing these songs on his own, and being totally convincing.
He's proven already with the Ghost of Tom Joad tour and the clips, some of the clips we see here, that he can do that and can enthrall a crowd. So as long as he can sort of walk upright, I'm pretty sure he'll want to perform live and will do it well.
Now.